Thank you for understanding the camera's off because I'm not well.
Okay. Well, there they are. I thought we had more people. Oh, well, doesn't matter. I'm not hearing you, Svetlana.
English channel. Oh, hello, Venerable Sumati.
Now I can hear you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Oh, well, doesn't matter how many people are here. Okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do the mandala, so please make the mudra. Here is the great earth filled with the smell of incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four continents wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayame. I go for refuge to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the song of the community of realized beings. By the power of the goodness, by the virtuous merit I can create, by the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, hold distant with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration, wisdom, and I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the song of the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration, wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the song of the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, I will attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I'm just curious, are more people listening to this as a recording, or have I lost 90% of the people I was teaching? Anybody have an answer for that? I can't hear you, Svetlana.
Oh, hello, Venerable Sumati. I'm just translating on the Russian channel, but as my guess that maybe not many people attending these classes because of the time or because it was not promoted so much. Yeah, so
Oh, well, I like
I
teaching.
think
It
this
doesn't
course,
matter.
yeah.
The important people are here. So, okay, let's do some rejoicing. Evgeny, do you have something? So now some of you have been in so many of my classes recently, it's going to be hard to find something new to rejoice about, but try. So Evgeny, what do you have to rejoice about?
Здравствуйте.
Good day, everyone. Today I would like say thank you for these beautiful teachings. And I would like to rejoice for my two karmic partners and for their incredible results. One karmic partner was that he found a way to be connected with his family in a pure ecological way, but not for a long time, not for forever. And another karmic partner received a great result, an offer from his boss, female boss, to increase his income 5 times, like without any prerequisites. And I'm rejoicing that I created such beautiful results, and I am seeing this and listening about it, hearing about it.
Wow, increase your salary 5 times. That's pretty big deal. Evgeny, we need to talk after class. Oh, wait, I'm not employed anymore, so I don't have a salary. Never mind. That was a joke. Okay. Jackie, are you up to rejoice or you just want to take it easy?
I rejoice. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, teacher. Thank you for understanding. I rejoice that my husband was so kind to share to go, and he provided the laptop for me, and he's taken care of me because I took care of my parents and they're unwell. I'm very grateful to have that care and support as I'd been stepping in for my parents, jumping in, doing everything I needed to do and just exhausting myself. But my husband's helping to take care of me to recover quickly.
Excellent. What's wrong? Do your folks have the new COVID or?
A lot of emotional distress.
Oh, I see. Well, thank you for taking care of them, and that's generating the karma to be taken care of by your husband. So it's the things are working the way they should. Okay, that brings us to Sheila and Katya. Let's go with Katya first.
Hi, hello. I rejoice that Lama Sarani and Venerable Sumati are going to be here in Mexico City on January. So that I'm very happy about that you are going to come here.
You're going to be at the teaching?
What?
Are you going to be at the meditation teaching?
Yes, yes.
Oh boy. Wow. That's going to be fun. The rooms, the buildings look like something out of the Lord of the Rings or something.
Yeah, it looks really nice, all the place.
Okay. Sheila, what do you have to rejoice about?
Hi, everybody. I rejoice that again we are here together and we are going to share the teachings of our lovely Lama Sumati. And also I rejoice that you're gonna be here in Mexico City, and I also with Katya will go to the retreat, to the meditation retreat in a beautiful place. And also I rejoice that Katya and I are helping to Roxana to prepare all the things to the retreat.
Excellent. Are you guys going to cook for us?
No.
No. Okay. Well, it's good to see everybody. I have all kinds of stuff to rejoice about. Which do I want to rejoice about the most? Well, as you know, I've been writing articles and books for many years now, and just before I went into my retreat, I found out I got an email that said, please call this number. And it was the executive director of the Air Force Historical Foundation. So because I was told to do it, and I always do what I'm told most of the time, well, some of the time, I called, and it turns out that they want to give me a special award for the quality of my writing. So I get to go. I was supposed to get the award at a meeting here in Tucson on the 4th of November, but I'm going to be in Spain. So they said we could do it in the national meeting, which is a very big deal, a national meeting in May of next year. So I've got to maintain my health. I've also got to figure out whether I'm going to wear a tuxedo or a dark suit. I haven't worn a suit since the last wedding I went to, which was years ago. But it's going to be grand fun, and I'm very pleased that they recognized my writing. I'm not sure why, what caused the award to be made, but I guess I'll find out in May. So the other thing that we're going to be talking about this today a little bit. I know that I've been lucky. I couldn't get up early enough or stay up late enough with most all of the jobs I've had. And in our teaching today, Geshe talks about something that would keep you up to 3 in the morning. It's so much fun and interesting. And I've had that experience now since 2015 with the writing I've done, the books I've written. I love to do that. That's what we call my calm, KAM. It's my calling. So I've been fortunate in the last couple of articles I'm writing. It's in the detail, but I have a launch. There's a missile launch that I'm writing about, and I like to have the actual day and time, day and date. So May 5th, 1953, not May 1953, or not sometime in 1953, but the day and the date. So I strive to do that. And in this last article I'm writing, I had one date that I didn't have a day for. And it was driving me nuts. And I finally found it. So I consider that to be my karma ripening for helping people as quickly as I can when they have a question and dedicating it toward my karma ripening to have that happen for me. It seems trivial, I think it's a trivial example, but it's a powerful example to me that what you do comes back. You create, you cause, you create a result. So now I just have to figure out how to do that for me seeing emptiness directly. So that's going to be these are probably my last articles. I keep saying that, but unless I find someone and ask me to write another book. Oh, I know the other thing to rejoice about. My latest book was released on Monday, so it's out for purchase. You don't have to buy copies of it. It will put you to sleep. But the cover is particularly nice. Let me show you the cover. Well, that's too hard to reach for. Anyway, so that's that. Okay, class. So we're talking about the Lam Rim, and Geshe starts to talk about oh, hi, Becky. Are you able to do a rejoicing? Whoops. I guess not. There she is. No, okay. Okay. Well, I need to open my chat. Jump to the latest.
Becky says, sorry I came late. I rejoice for being here.
Okay, there she is. Okay, so back to class. So we're going to be leading into the Four Noble Truths, but Geshe starts by saying he's traveled around the world, and there are 3 questions that people ask that he finds common throughout all the places he teaches. One is, I'm unhappy with my work or my career. I got stuck in it out of college. It was a bad economy, and I took the first thing I could get. And now I've struggled my way up to mid-manager, and it's really not what I want to do. I'm not happy. I have no excitement or passion in the job. It's just a job. So that's the first category of people. He thinks the second category of people are people that come to me. This happens in Asia a lot. They come in and say, I've got a job and I'm doing a job, but It's not the one I think I was supposed to do. Everyone in life is trying to discover what they were meant to do. So Geshe found out when he was 17, he knew what he was meant to do. He really loved it then, and he still loves it now. He thinks it's very sad when they say they haven't found the thing that would be you could be the best at. I do a bunch of things, but I don't do them very well, and I'm not really passionate about them. What can I do? Geshe heard Martha Graham, who was the publisher of the Washington Post for a long time. And someone said to her, I wish I had your passion for what you do. She said, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, because she didn't stop up until the time of her death. I've been very fortunate. I can stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning and still get up at 5 to teach. I don't need much sleep. That's very fortunate. Okay, third category. The first 2 categories end up usually with the third one. I have a feeling I was supposed to do something epic in the world. The purpose of what we're teaching over this next 10 years and the purpose of what we're teaching in this particular class is that you should be able to fulfill all these goals. You should go beyond a job which is not making you happy. You can find that one thing you're best at in the world, and you can thrive on it. Doesn't matter what your age is, you can do it. You can get out of a place where you're stuck or a relationship you're stuck in. This teaching is meant to do that for everybody. So what Geshe wants to emphasize, as he's done over this already in the course, is that there was the Lord Buddha, then Atisha, so that's the second generation, then Pabonka Rinpoche, that's the third, and we're the fourth or the fifth that's going to take this material, this Lam Rim material, and continue it. That's what it means being a lineage. You're continuing the teaching. So it's a massive responsibility that I feel very strongly about. And I know a lot of you don't think you'll ever be teaching. The last thing I thought when I started the ACI courses was that I would be teaching internationally. But here I am going to Spain, Guatemala, Mexico City. Well, it's not in Mexico. Is it outside of Mexico City or is it inside Mexico City?
Outside, but it's close. It's really close.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. This is a sidelight, but I had a teacher in 6th grade who was very enamored of Mexico. And I did a paper at 6 years old, 6th grade. When was that? 6th grade. Let's see, Mr. Head. I was probably 12, 13 years old. And I did a paper on, what was his name? Cortez. I did a long paper about Cortez. And I remember reading about the magical in Mexico City at the time, which it wasn't called. It was Tenochtitlan or something like that. Is that?
Yes.
Tenochtitlan.
Yes.
Yeah. I just remember that now. Huh. So back when I was 8 years old, I figured I was going to come see it. I hope we have time to see some of Mexico City while we're there. Okay, anyway. So we have a responsibility to study this well and perpetuate it. It's a tough thing to do. And the emptiness teachings, the logic teachings, Those are hard, but it's our responsibility. So if you were to learn this well and be able to teach it, that would be something extremely worthwhile. Then your life would be something special. Now, if you're going to teach a subject, you have to, in my opinion, you have to really like it. I have trouble teaching a logic course because I'm not very good at debate, but I still teach it. So we want to find out a way to energize what we do in life so it's meaningful. It doesn't mean fame. For instance, getting this award, I really have no idea why I'm getting this award. Personally, I write something, I put it away for a couple of months, and then I read it again. And often I start reading the first couple of paragraphs and I say to myself, wow, this is pretty good. Oh, wait a minute, I wrote it. I really do that. Sometimes I look at it and go, oh, you better rewrite this stuff. But there's a magical moment in writing what I write where it all fits together. And that's what I really, that's the juice that keeps me going. That's better than ice cream. That's better than chocolate. It's the juice I get from having a particularly hard. I'm struggling now on the last paragraph of the last section of an article, and I couldn't get anything written down. So finally this morning I just said, write something, get it on paper, and then you can make changes. And that worked because now everything's flowing. So I'm curious, Katya, Sheila, what do you do for what do you do for a living?
I'm accounting.
Oh, wow, that's difficult. Okay, Sheila.
I study psychology and I teach in the university and also I give therapy.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, are you going to psychoanalyze me when I'm down
All the time.
there?
I do my notes.
No, good. Except they're in Spanish, so I can't understand them.
Yes.
So accounting. How long have you been an accountant?
How what? Sorry?
How long have you been an accountant?
Like 15 years.
Wow. What software do you use?
It's one that it's called Compact.
Oh, not familiar with it. Wow. How many patients do you have, Sheila?
Right now, I more or less 8 patients.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm very impressed. That's massive. You like what you do?
Yes, I love.
How about you, Katya?
Yes, I also like a lot.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Evgeny, what do you do for a living? No, I guess he's not there. Svetlana, what do you do for a living? I forget.
Yeah, I'm data analyst, so it's like in marketing intelligence. So it's like working with data and make some analysis, databases, etc.
Do you like what you do?
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, but well, maybe ACI will be able to develop such that you can get a job with them that you really like.
Yeah, it would be very nice, very great. I would say.
Okay. Tom, is that right? Yeah. What do you do for a living?
Hi, yes, that's right. In the past year, I'm focusing on teaching yoga, meditation.
Wow. You like doing it?
Yes, very much, but it's also stressful sometimes.
Yeah, I bet that when you go to a yoga studio, do you have your own studio?
No, I teach regularly at a studio like 20 minutes from me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How long have you been doing that?
I have been teaching for a few years, but this year is like has been the first time that I'm doing this full time. Like I quit all my other jobs. So financially it's very stressful.
Oh, I bet. Well,
Yes,
well, find someone who's doing something similar and help them with their job, and you'll have great success.
I hope so. Thank you.
So when I say I couldn't get up early enough or stay up late enough, I really enjoyed being a scientist. That doesn't mean I didn't have my bad days, but I really enjoyed it. Um, Jackie, I'm not going to ask you because I don't want you to get stressed because you're sick. And Becky, I know you can't write an answer easily. Marketing. Okay. So he talks about teaching from the traditional text and talks about teaching in person and how people are they sees they're too lame or in the wrong time zone to watch it live. I think the fact that you watch it, whether you watch it live or not, is the important thing. So this week we're going to cover on this 10 classes. We're going to cover the most important part of the book, which is how to find a teacher and how to relate to a teacher. Now, if there's one thing you may have noticed with Geshe Michael's teaching, every subject he's teaching is the most important part of the book. I think that's really funny. The proper attitude with which to study these deep spiritual teachings and the proper attitude with which to teach them to other people. There's a beautiful etiquette. We're not going to do much in the etiquette part today, but we'll get to it. There's a tradition which Geshe really feels strongly we should keep about how to study and how to teach. It's based on a very deep gratitude and affection and respect between the teacher and the student. He was subjected to this training from the time he was about 22. So he lived with an old cranky Tibetan Lama, and he would hit Geshe Michael if he didn't follow the proper etiquette. And he's grateful for that. He hasn't, I'm not that close to him. I haven't been that physically close to Geshe to get hit yet. But I don't think he's gotten mad at me that I'm aware of. So at the beginning, there can be great friction between the untrained disciple and the master. And slowly, as the disciple matures and becomes a master themselves, they see how this deep affection and respect has to occur in order to have a good teaching relationship. And that's rare in the American educational system. I can remember, well, let's see if I can remember. Dr. David Pratt inspired me my first year in college. He inspired me to try and teach because he had such a beautiful way of teaching biology. And I'd have to say David Pratt. How about high school? Oh, what was her name? Miss. Oh, I had a teacher in summer school that was extraordinary. She was short, very short. So I towered above her. I mean, she was tiny, but boy, was she an enthusiastic teacher. If you get me on a subject I know really well, we don't want to talk about missiles, but I can talk about missiles till the cows come home. Okay. So let's see. You have to pass it on and you have to do a good job. So you have to work hard. But we brought the lineage down to the present moment. And so we're going into the teaching that was passed down through 100 generations. Before he begins this particular teaching, Pabonka Rinpoche quotes a great quotation from Master Shantideva. Let's see if I can get to the quote. I had it here. He talks about this quote. He's talking about we have an opportunity here right now. We're living in a country which is comfortable. You have a basic education. You know how to read and write if you're educated. We can practice in this country for sure the Dharma without fear of the black helicopters descending on us and hauling our family away. I think I have trouble imagining what it would be like to be in constant fear of the police or what's called the authorities. So this is called, now why is he called this down joy? He uses the term down joy. You have the opportunity now to practice this. And for some reason, he's calling that down joy. It's difficult to get the conditions. We're living in the top 1% of the people in the world as far as material comfort. It doesn't last. So I'm trying to find the quote. I had it in here. Well, hang on a minute. My computer's giving me a little bit of trouble. Huh. Well, I don't have the quote. He says, and this is something I've echoed myself to all of you. I really am so thankful that you're learning the Dharma at this early age. I didn't start learning the Dharma until 1998, and that was when I was 45. So if you're learning the Dharma when you're in your 20s or 30s, that's extraordinary. Just extraordinary. I really rejoice in that. Okay, let me scan past this problem. Oh, we have, as humans, we have an extraordinary capability that animals don't have. And that is, well, for the most part, that is taking care of your enemy. We can go and help someone who's sick, that's somebody we don't like. We have the capacity to help that person. Now, I've fallen into a particularly bad habit of getting sucked into the YouTube short vignettes about cats and dogs playing with each other and dogs raising kittens. I can watch that for an hour easily. It just makes me all warm and fuzzy. It wants me to get a cat. And my wife says no, but I'd like to get a cat or a dog. Anyway, so, but that's an animal taking care of its enemy. You think of dogs and cats fighting it with each other, and these videos show cats and dogs playing with each other. I saw one video where you're looking at this dog, Springer Spaniel, I think, really shaggy haired dog. And out from underneath it pops a ringtail parakeet. It's been sleeping underneath the dog. And now it woke up and it comes out from underneath. Wow. Anyway, we're capable of serving people we don't like, even the people who hurt us. And why do we do that? Why is it important for us to do that? Well, it's important because if you serve someone that you don't get along with and dedicate it, that means you'll have in the future, you'll have access to the things you need when there's no one around that appears to like you. Now, how important is that? Well, when I was running Diamond Mountain, there were several people that repeatedly did things that they knew were wrong, but they did it anyway. And I finally got to the point where I just realized I had to thank them for the opportunity for them to teach me how to get along with people that were doing something I didn't like. And that's when I really started to understand the idea of seeing all beings as my teacher. I see all of you as my teacher, because invariably during class or when I meet you in person, you'll say or do something that strikes me as advice for me to learn and to practice myself. That doesn't mean you shouldn't practice trying to help the people you love, but it's the equanimity. When we talk about the sevenfold cause and effect, it's the equanimity at the very beginning of that we're talking about. You don't have to like them, but you have to respect that they have the same suffering issues that you have. And in that sense, you're trying to help them ease their suffering, their pain. So, with the political situation in our country, I don't particularly care for former President Trump, but I try to suggest, if he ever came and talked to me, I would try and suggest solutions for the problems and not complain about other politicians. He's just perpetuating his problem by being so nasty and rude to people that don't agree with him. So that's he's a wonderful teacher for me on how to take care of, how to respect others and be sure that they know you respect them. You can't get a much stronger teacher than that. The alternative is for me to complain about him. So I like to think instead that he's teaching me a very powerful lesson. Doesn't mean I want him to be president. Now, Geshe talks about you should undertake something that will be of benefit to the world, the entire world. You should do something which will be of benefit even beyond the border of your own death. Now, that's an interesting statement for me, because with the books I've published and the articles I've published, those will extend beyond my time on the planet. So even though it's not the Dharma, I've fulfilled this suggestion by him. I think that makes me feel pretty good. So we're working for as much in this life as we can. Well, is it possible that you'll get another body and mind like this in the next life? There's a quote from, I think it's Master Shantideva, the chance of getting, I'm going to paraphrase it, the chance of getting another body and mind like this are about as good as a turtle putting its head through a floating golden ring on the ocean. Minuscule, minuscule chance. So make the best use of this life as you can. So even at the beginning, want to serve others. Bring them to the highest learning, highest teachings. So the people sitting in the class he was teaching were a select group of cool people, he said. And we should all get to know each other and practice together instead of being loners. Your motivation should be big. Don't think you just come into class and go home. It should be that you learn what I'm talking about, you use it in your life. That's one of the really sweet things over the last couple of, I had a weekend where I taught the source of all my good. And we did rejoicing, and several of the students rejoiced about specific instances where the teachings had a lot of impact on their response to a situation. So that's why I encourage all my students to memorize the source of all my good, memorize the three principal paths, memorize the four immeasurables, memorize the three extraordinary trainings, the three moralities. Memorize things like that, because you'd be surprised once you memorize them how often they'll come up in your daily life, and you can use some of those phrases to help you go through a tough spot. What I've done is I put them on my phone because if I'm at a doctor's office and I'm waiting, I'll run through the source of all my good, or the three principal paths, and invariably I'll come up against a verse that I just don't remember the words. So I put them on my phone so I can go into the phone and get myself reoriented, because there's nothing more frustrating to me than having memorized something and having you lose that particular verse. And I just sit there and stew because I don't have a copy of it. But now it's on my phone, so I can go in and check it. So how do I memorize things? That's often been asked of me. When I could write, I can't handwrite now. My handwriting was terrible to begin with, but now it's pointless. So back when I could write, I would take a stanza, I would write the first line, write it out, then close my eyes, try and recite it, write it out again, do that with the second line, write both the first and second line forwards and backwards, then add the third line, do the same, add the fourth line, get it to where I memorize that, add one line of the next verse, stop, take a few minutes, and write it all down again. That was the way I memorized things. It worked pretty well. The source of all my good is indelibly inked into my brain. For some reason, I can't keep the 8-verse mind training and the three principal paths completely in my mind, but I'm working on it. So I digress. Let's get back to what we're talking about here. Abunka Rinpoche at this point begs us to listen carefully to what he's going to talk about. All these great presentations in Tibet are based upon a 3-page text called A Lamp on the Path in Sanskrit. And we heard the whole story of how that book was written by Lord Atisha. He decided that Tibetans could only handle a 3-page book, and he wrote this little 3-page book. And it's one of the great spiritual classics ever written. So next, he's trying to get the disciple, the student, to appreciate the immensity of what they're about to hear. So we're going to go through a very traditional presentation of 4 things about this teaching which make it extraordinary. There are 4 qualities of a teaching on the steps called the Lam Rim that make it extraordinary. And then there are 3 additional ones. So let's go and let's dive in. Number 1, the teachings are internally consistent. Number 2, you could go to St. Petersburg, which contains the huge warehouses with all the Dharma that was collected in it. You could open any book and read one sentence, and it would relate directly to your life today. So the second quality is the teachings that were written thousands of years ago relate to what we're doing now. And you really stop and think about it. All the advice that I've taught or been taught is so timely in this part of my life that it is as if he was writing for someone 3,000 years in the future, several thousand years in the future. The third quality, you are easily able to crack the code of the bombshell ideas of the Buddha, more or less. Teaching enables you to look into the minds of all the enlightened beings that have lived in the universe. Number 4, if you study this teaching, you'll never fall into the great mistake. You'll automatically avoid the great mistake. So are there certain fatal errors in the spiritual quest? If you fall into one of them, your life is ruined. Your spiritual search is ruined. If you study this tradition, you can avoid them automatically. So we try to keep our time, especially on these teachings. They possess the first kind of greatness, which means if you really delve into it, there's no contradiction between any teaching and the vast network of teachings. There are hundreds of thousands of books, pages of text, and there's no contradiction. So you say to yourself, well, sure, there's a contradiction. Hinayana contradicts the Mahayana all the time. So how can you say that? Well, it's not that the Hinayana contradicts the Mahayana. It's not as thorough as the Mahayana. And a Mahayana practitioner is well studied in the Hinayana tradition because that's what the Mahayana builds on. So he says, if it's a contradiction, what they're saying in the lower schools would be completely opposite of what we're trying to learn. And if you go through the different schools and the teachings about nirvana and the types of enlightenment, the lower schools aren't saying we're so much wrong as they're just saying we don't get it the way they do. And we're not saying they're so much wrong as we're saying they don't get it the way we do. So that's what he means by there's no internal contradiction. The favorite example I like to use is the phrase you learn in the teachings, kill your mother and father. Well, obviously, Lord Buddha is not telling us to kill our mother and father. That's absurd. So what does he mean? He means not to kill. He means to kill that which gives birth to your mental afflictions, to your bad actions, mental afflictions. If you can stop the mental afflictions, you won't do harmful deeds that will make bad karma and cause you grief in the future. So kill your tendency to have mental afflictions, not kill your mother and father. So whenever you come across a statement in the teachings that seems to contradict something else Lord Buddha has said, that's when you have to stop and try and figure out what he's really trying to say. Because often, if it's like the Heart Sutra, he's not telling you, it's still all in code. So next he comes up to the definition of the Dharma. What is the definition of the Dharma? This answer is a little bit complicated. Let me just get to the phrase I want to use. Well, here he talks about the Dharma is they need to, it helps people realize what they need to give up and what they should take up to be successful in the Dharma. There's a reference to the four higher truths here. That's really what he's getting to, is the four higher truths. Who can tell me the Four Noble Truths in the correct order? Oh, come on, you guys know the four Arya truths. You should know the four Arya truths. I'll give you a hint.
The exist of the suffering.
Right.
Is the first. The second is that it has a cause. A cause.
Yep.
The ignorance, the afflictions, and karma. And the third, there's the suffering can stop.
Yep.
And the fourth, there's a path. There's a way
Very
to
good.
stop the suffering.
Very good. Excellent. So there's a source of suffering, that's samsara. There's a cause to the suffering, samsara. There's a path out of the suffering. There's a way to stop the suffering, the Lam Rim, and teaching the Lam Rim, understanding the Lam Rim is the path out of the suffering. So at present we are doomed. If you continue on your current course, you're doomed. But I also think we're doomed because we now know it's nobody's fault but our own for the dilemma we're in. For instance, I don't like where the politics are going in this country. But it's nobody's fault but my own. I can say, well, the politicians don't seem interested in taking care of streets and roads and bridges and things like that. And that's the how. The why they aren't taking care of it is my karma ripening from my past, what's the word I want to use? My past, not ignorance. Oh, there's a word I'm looking for. My past indifference to other people's needs. So to have the karma ripen for me to not have that happen is I have to be actively trying to see what other people need and trying to help them. But you have to be very careful because it's easy to interject what you think they need into what they need. And if you're doing that, the example I always use is my lovely wife and headaches. She has a migraine. What would make her happy during the day is ice cream. But the worst thing I could do is give her ice cream when she has a headache, a migraine. So I have to be careful to make sure what I'm doing is what that person needs. And the way to find that out is to ask them or observe them. But I don't know how many times you've had someone come up and say, oh, this is what you need, and I'll help you get it, and this is this, that, and this and that. And you go, well, no, actually, that's not what I need. But when that happens, I use it as a lesson, I use it as a teaching to make sure that when I do something to help somebody, it is what they need, and it's not me imposing it on them. So the second higher truth is the source of suffering. And the third is the truth to the end of the suffering. And the fourth is the higher truth, the path to stop the suffering. So that's one of the definitions of the Dharma. Dharma is any another definition is you could use is Dharma is any teaching, physical, spoken, recorded in people's hearts, which explain these four things. You're in trouble, you can shut it off, you can reach an end of the trouble, and you just need to do it. People who want to get out of samsara, this is the ticket, to know there's suffering, to know there's a cause of the suffering, to know there's an end to the suffering, and there's a path to the end of the suffering. It seems really trivial and repetitive, but it's really the key. Okay, we talked about the inconsistencies. So let's see here. Mahayana flowered about 200 AD with the coming of Arya Nagarjuna. It's lasted until now. We call this the higher way or the greater way. It is characterized by two great features. One, you're working for everybody. You want to save all of the world from its problems. It's not enough to go out and run out of town and get in trouble. I'm not sure where he's going with that. You want to make sure nobody in your hometown gets in trouble. So it seems on the face of it, there's a contradiction between the greater way and the lesser way. Lord Buddha taught the lesser understanding of how things work so that the higher understanding would make more sense. So it's like the emptiness, studying emptiness. When I first started studying emptiness, I kept saying to myself, let's skip to the end. Let's skip to the higher knowledge, the higher version. And Geshe repeatedly through the courses says, you have to learn the lesser ways, not because they're lesser, they're less complete, but they're wrong, but if you don't understand the lesser way, you will not understand the greater way. But if you understand the lesser way, you will naturally come to the greater way as being the correct thought process. So to say there's a contradiction, you could find the contradiction without delving into it, because That's, well, the lesser way it has that feature. It's not complete. So you can say this contradicts the more complete way. Or you can say, if I understand the lesser way, then I can know where my mistakes are with the lesser way. It helps me understand the Mahayana path. One is the foundation for the other. The lower way is the foundation for the higher way. Understanding the mistakes you can make and understanding reality in the lower way gives you a higher appreciation for how reality really works, especially on the level of emptiness. So this, they say, is not contradictory. One is in preparation for the other. So I think that's actually could be determined to be semantical. But his point is, the point of the Dharma is you go through, well, it's like music. He often refers to playing the piano. Most people can't go out and play a piano piece for a symphony by Beethoven with just sitting down at the piano. You have to practice the pieces and parts of the music in order to play the whole thing. And so that's what we do with the lesser or lower ways, are the practice that allow us to catch our minds and fully understand why they're not complete. So to say they're wrong, I think to think they're wrong is part of our problem, because the term lesser way implies that they're not correct. They're just not as correct as they could be. So to me, that's semantics. One could easily say that's contradictory. And I don't think they'd be wrong. But from a Buddhist perspective, it's just a lesser teaching to get us to get to the higher teaching. I do think the example of to kill your mother and father that's the best one I've come up with all of my years of study, because that stood out for me when I first heard the 5 heinous crimes. I thought, kill your mother and father. That's absurd. I would never think of doing that. Then I stopped and thought about it and said, what is he trying to make me understand? Then I realized it was giving birth to my mental afflictions that he was talking about, just like they gave birth to me. Why there's such a strong karmic object is they brought me into this world. Okay, what else have we got? Well, here's a good example for those that don't have any teachings in the tantric, the Vajrayana teachings. So you have some teaching in Buddhism that say you don't even stand in the same room alone with a lady as a monk. And if you have, you're breaking a vow. Then another teacher comes up and says, the only way you can get enlightenment quickly is to combine the male and female energies. So there appears to be a very severe contradiction. But he deals with this contradiction by saying we need to be trained. When we see a contradiction, we need to realize there's undoubtedly a teaching further deeper that explains it. So I guess what he says, and I don't know that I agree with this. What he says is if you see a contradiction, you'll find later in your teaching that it's not a contradiction, it's just a less complete way of looking at a particular object or subject in the Dharma. So you'd have to be pretty well trained to realize that. And that's why I use that example when I'm teaching, because I don't want students to get hung up on what appears to be a contradiction and leave the Dharma without having a chance to explain to them why it's just a less complete way of looking at something. Or it's a bad teaching by someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. For instance, emptiness, meditating on nothing, a blank mind. That's about as far from the true idea of emptiness as you can get. But it was taught, and it's still taught by some schools, some teachers. So is it wrong, or is it just incomplete? It's incomplete. That's about all I have. So the class today was reiterating what we're trying to learn with the Dharma by defining the Dharma using the four Arya truths and realizing that there are no absolute contradictions if we understand how to study the Dharma properly. That's kind of like preaching to the choir. I think we all know that, but the Lam Rim is the steps on the path, and we're reviewing the steps on the path, so it's appropriate to talk about it. Okay, let's dedicate. Let's see what I want to use for dedication. Oh, I want to dedicate this teaching to the long life and healthy recovery of Venerable Jigme, who's recovering from surgery. I haven't been in touch with her lately, but I think she's doing well. So let's dedicate the good, any of the goodness that we've done will ripen as our karma to see Venerable Jigme healthy again and up and about and teaching as she so beautifully does. May the source of benefit and goodness, the Dharma, spread and expand. May the beings upholding the Dharma have excellent health. May the source of happiness and well-being for all embodied beings, the Dharma taught by the Buddhas, always increase. May the merit of my life and my practice be for the benefit of all my students without exception. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you for the opportunity to teach this part of the Lam Rim. We'll pick up again next Friday's the 20th. Oh, today's Friday the 13th. Ooh. What's happened for me on Friday the 13th? Nothing. Does Friday the 13th mean the same thing across countries? So in Mexico and in Russia, the same thing?
Yes.
How about Australia?
Yes, I guess so.
How about Bulgaria? I don't think she can get back to me. Okay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
So in Israel, I think Tom is from Israel.
Oh, I didn't know that. Are you in Israel now?
No, I'm back in the US. I just came back like a
What-
week, 2 weeks ago.
What part of the US?
I'm in Florida,
Florida.
so it's spooky around here.
It's spooky around Florida anyway.
All the time.
What part of Israel were you in?
I'm from the north. So like
Oh,
I grew up in the north of Israel, like Sea of Galilee area. But I was in like Haifa area. I was visiting my grandma.
now, the Golan Heights are in the northern part of Israel. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Very close to that. Close to the border. It's beautiful.
I'd like to get to Israel one of these days.
I,
Anyway,
Yeah.
okay. Well, good to
Thank
see
you.
everybody, and thank you for attending class. I'll teach even if there's only one of you, because you never know when I'll say something that will light the fire. And I've had that happen now to several students, and I realize that that's why I teach. So, okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dilama Sumati.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care, Becky. Hope you feel better, Jackie. Thank your husband for making it possible for you to listen to class.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.